welcome back to Resilient Events. My name is Marissa. I'm here with John, and today we're talking about how to double your online attendance. What does that
Right.
mean?
Well, it means how to get more people to actually be at your events. And so, two ways you can do that. Well, there's three ways. One way that I don't want to talk about is how to promote better. Okay.
Yeah, that'll
I'm
be
not
another show.
interested in that. Tons of people are really good at that, lots of ways. But what I'm interested in is how to raise registrations. But when people actually land on your registration page. So, assuming you can get them there, how to get them to actually click that register button. Then the next step is getting them to actually show up. And that is a hard
Wow.
thing to do online.
Yes, I definitely agree. And I think there is a right way and a wrong way. And we're going to teach you how to do it the right way and not plan to do it the right way.
There you
Because
go.
got to be a
Perfect.
doer, not a planner.
Absolutely. So yeah, part one of this is raising registration rates. And really it just comes down to like when you're building an event registration site, you're basically building a sales site,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like some known architecture, like what you got to have in place.
Right.
Make
Yeah.
sense?
And I mean, the first and foremost, before we get into that, I want to make sure that people know that you're going to, if you pay for something, you're most likely going to get that person to show up. Now, when you do it for free, it's not going to happen. So always think about that when you're talking about registration. It could be a small fee, but you got to have something to
Right.
make someone want to show up. But yeah, back to the sales funnel thing.
Right. And so I like to think about this like really like Amazon pages,
Hmm.
or like just like software sales pages. So like, and we'll compare all the details of this as we go through. But on an Amazon page, you have everything you could ever need to know about a product before you click that checkout button. And then checking out is ridiculously easy. Like you
Yeah.
click one button and it shows up the next day. Like,
Hmm.
and so you need that's kind of what you're competing with that, or that's like what to aim at.
Hmm.
You want to you want to have everything in place. So there's like three major components. You want to have a clear and compelling headline, like why should they come to your event in the first place? You need to have
Right.
some kind of social proof or other proof, and then just the details. They let people know everything, and so we can jump
Right.
into those in each and explain a little bit further.
Right. So the clear and compelling headlines sometimes oftentimes people forget about that. And it's always good to, like, when you're working on an event or any type of thing that you're promoting your business, is always have someone that to look over it. Is your headline to get the person to click and go compelling, or does it just, I mean, and a lot of times when you're locked into your business, you think that it's clear and compelling because that's your business, but like you're not asking your business friends or like anyone that might be a target audience, kind of getting their feedback initially, because that's ultimately who you're trying to attract. So what value are you offering in your clear and compelling headline? And it
Right.
has to be short.
Totally. And yeah, just very obvious. Like
Hmm.
the speaker event, it's not just like come and listen to a bunch of people talk. It's like
Hmm.
gain the knowledge from these experts, right?
Right.
Maybe the compelling, like the hook can be like you're never going to get all these speakers in one place ever again.
The other thing is like networking. Is it an event where you can build upon your connections?
Right.
Um,
And then you can talk about like the type of people that are going to be there, right? So you can say like
mhm,
regular attendance for these events includes A, B, and C types of people, right?
mhm,
So that
mhm.
people know who they can connect with, not just like, hey, a crowd of people will be here at a time. Great.
What's in it for me?
Yeah,
Always think about
exactly.
that.
Yeah. Other types of events like charity events, like people go to network, but also to feel like they're giving back to the community, right? And so
Mhm,
you want to
mhm.
be very upfront about the types of people that the event is benefiting.
Right,
Make
exactly.
sense?
Yeah, and I would suggest reading, if you're not sure what to put here, and this is like a separate action item, reading the Smart Brevity book. It's how
Oh,
to say
interesting.
more with less.
Got it.
And this could be anything. It's got to be, don't overcomplicate it. And I think we're so used to that because we just want to give all the information we can, but then it kind of loses itself because you're just not focused on what you need to do, which is actually get people to register.
Right.
So,
And just while we're mentioning books, I stole a lot of this from Storybrand as well. So,
okay. Thank you,
uh,
Donald Miller.
yeah,
Shout
thank
out
you.
Donald Miller.
Um, Next item, having social proof or some kind of other proof of value on the page
Hmm.
is super important. So, like I've seen at the bottom of Eventbrite listings a lot, just testimonials from previous attendees.
Right.
Just saying, like, describing the type of people they got to meet for a networking event, or describing the
Hmm.
value they got from the speakers, for example.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's something that people don't think about doing when they're doing an online event, because it's something you either have to capture from a past event or connections that you have what from the people that will eventually be there, or what kind of value it is to them to be part of this event or connected to the person hosting it. And that's something that you can always add to a website or like cut up and promote it, which is another episode. But
Right.
social proof is definitely important. I think I want to hear from people that have been to the event or that have worked with the host or have, learned something from the people that are going to be at the event, because I want to see if I can relate to them and if that event is for me.
Right. And then the other ways you can add it in besides testimonials is stats. So like we've had like 1,000 people show up over the
Hmm.
years, or we've had like it's been running for 6 years straight, or anything just to give it some kind of evidence, right?
Right.
And then other types of stats, or other type like a mixture of stats and social proof, is just showing how many people have already registered for the event.
Right.
Maybe
Hmm.
you can even show profile pictures of the people that have registered to make it just seem that much more real, right?
Yeah, that's creating FOMO, and we have a special friend who does that, and she'll tell you that sometimes it is about the other people attending, and
What's her name?
even oh, making hi
I thought
making,
so. Yeah, hi, Megan.
yeah, and if I think also, you mentioned like if we have X amount of registrations, that might create FOMO. But also, if it's a more intimate event, definitely talk about that. That's the key selling point. I have an event we're planning in November and it's less than 30 people. But that's super key because you're going to have a quality connection with everyone that's
Yeah,
going to be at the event versus you're in a room with 4,000 people and you don't make any quality connections and it's really a waste of your time and money. So,
right. So you've got the title, you've got social proof. The next thing is the details, right? So when I'm registering for an event, what's the first thing you think I want to know, Marissa?
the time and the date
Time and the date, and yeah,
and the
what?
location. Where is it
uh,
gonna be?
yeah, that's right. And then the agenda. Just like
Mhm.
I want to know what's going to happen,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and like to the minute is better,
But
because like if I'm maybe you're gonna do like a 10-minute intro, maybe I don't want to see that 10-minute intro.
right.
Maybe I want to jump in 10 minutes late and jump right to the content.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of people might be starting to plan an event without the agenda, which is fine, but I think even putting your intended agenda, even if you don't have it solidified, you have to provide those details, if you can, up front. If you have a speaker and you plan to do, you know, breakout rooms or whatever, you need to put that information in there because it allows people to their make their decision if they want to attend, or
Right.
your intended agenda. You could always put subject to change. I mean, how many times have agendas changed? They change all the
Yeah.
time, but
Not
not
locked
not
in.
including it, thinking that people will just assume that they want to show up. Like, you can't do that. You have
Yeah.
to share the agenda.
And then one thing I recommend here, if you can plan your event with being single track instead of being multi-track,
Oh,
like
yes,
the
please.
purchase anxiety of people, like when you have to like all these great things are going to happen, but you can only choose one or the other,
Yeah.
and it's like that just it just stops making people make decisions, stops people from deciding to buy your ticket,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So if you can stack it, like maybe have less content but put it all together so it's
Yeah.
easier for people, then it's like you're doing the work most planners want to do, which is curate a great experience instead of make people figure it out for themselves, right?
From a planner's perspective, it is much more preferred because you have less technical hurdles that you have to go through when you have
Absolutely.
than when you have like breakout rooms. You have to have more people. You have to make sure people are monitoring the rooms, or how does an attendee know how to just go to all these other things? You have to That's extra communication that you don't need to.
Yeah.
No, you don't need if it's a single track. So,
Yeah. Severely more complicated to
and
do a
more money.
multi-track event. Yeah. And just more things can go wrong, et
Mhm.
cetera, right?
Right.
Another thing to be open about on the registration page is like, what kind of interaction will there be? Like, is this just a live stream where people just watch? Can they participate, talk to each other with a chat? Will you be taking questions from the audience?
Mhm.
Can audience members come on stage, polling, voting, all these things that could be a thing,
Right.
can really help people know whether they want to attend or not.
Right. Yeah, and is it a lead in to other things in terms of, like, being interactive? Is it a speaker event and then they're gonna have, like, later on events, like, throughout the day, or is it just, like, you're watching 2 hours or something like that? And then I think the one that a lot of us are very, concerned, I guess not concerned, but for me, I wanna know if in order to be active in this event, do I have to be on camera?
Yeah. Um, and big reasons here, like we talk about, a lot of people have talked about Zoom fatigue for years now. And what that really means, I think, is on camera fatigue. Like people are just
Mhm.
tired of having a camera in their face,
Right,
believe
yeah.
it or not. Uh, and just
Hi,
like,
camera.
yeah. And like when you're trying to register for an event, uh, it's hard to forecast, like, am I gonna be camera ready 6 weeks
Mhm.
from now at 6 p.m.? Like,
Right.
how do I know what's gonna happen in that day, right?
Mhm.
As one of my friends, Lakeisha Mosley says, also an online producer, she says, I ain't always got my wig and makeup on.
Nice. I
Right?
saw that in our run of show, and I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
who said this?" Thank you,
It's
Lakeisha.
it's awesome. And it's like, yeah, it's just like, if I want to show up and participate, like I don't necessarily want to get my lights on. I don't want to do my makeup. I don't want to like
Mhm.
make sure that there's no junk behind me in the room. Like I don't want to, like, all these little things. It's just
Mhm.
like you're eliminating stress from the decision of
Mhm.
whether to show up at the event, right?
Mhm.
And like whether to have talking about whether to have cameras on, like, question, like, will there be breakout rooms? So for a long time, everybody thought that every online event had to have breakout rooms and that they were the best thing ever. And I think that we really all figured that out by the end of April 2020, right? Like,
Yeah, no. 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 Why so Yeah, I think the question is, if you're gonna have breakout rooms, why are you having breakout rooms? And are you sure you want to have those?
yeah,
That is more tech involved, more explaining, like there's gonna be someone who doesn't know how to get into the breakout room. So you
yeah,
have to build that into your plan of how to access the breakout room and need tech support to get that person into the breakout room.
right. And then just like while they were a cool new thing for a while, like
Mhm.
maybe just people don't really want them that much. Like if you think about it, it was supposed to mimic real life event networking, right? But
Mhm.
how often in real life event networking you're like, everybody back up, take one step to the left, and then and then like just going through a random cycle. It's you like kind of see who you want to talk to, and then you just go wherever you want in real life.
Yeah.
In a
Or you
breakout
don't.
room,
Or
or
you
you
don't.
don't, or you just
Mm.
eat pizza and look at your phone like I used to do. Whole other show about how I became not a networking wallflower. But
Uh.
yeah, it's
Oh,
just
that's
like
a
just
good one.
random video chats are like, it just doesn't come close to
S
real life networking. So like, why force people through it?
Yeah, and I mean, and there's different ways. Sometimes there is that automatic, like, shuffle, and then you kinda have to be on, and then there's some where you like, "Okay, I'm gonna go to this breakout room." someone could be dominating the conversation. You don't, and then do you have to have a moderator in each breakout room
Right.
to make sure that like there's not like someone doing their
Yeah.
salesy pitch and making it awkward.
And
I
then
mean,
and
there's
then how is that networking? It's not. It's just like, yeah, it's like, and now it's your turn to speak. Marissa, please, you have 30 seconds. I think
it's
feel like we
just
do a whole show on just don't do breakout rooms.
yeah, I mean, why not to do a breakout room? This
Yeah.
is why.
Yeah.
Because you need a virtual moderator that knows how to get people excited, not in
Yeah.
a room.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh my
Painful.
gosh, I'm
Okay.
getting anxiety right now. I
Exactly.
cannot do this. They were cool. Like John said, they were cool in April 2020,
Yeah.
and that lasted about a month.
Yeah.
So,
Not anymore. Finally, so say you've got people to your landing page, you've given them all the details, the social proof, the headline, they know why they want to go. The worst place to drop the ball is by making it hard for people to register.
me being a marketing person, I will try to help people like, hey, like your call to action is a little buried, or but there won't be people there were people that leave that site without saying anything to you, and they're like, that was too hard and I won't do it.
Yeah.
um and this is all in trying to recreate something, like creating a custom sales page or an event page that's not already done all the work for you, like Buzzit event sites that will have those in the right areas where based on trends of user experience, and like, oh, we can actually make it a colored button that makes it easier. Wow, that's like
Yeah.
so innovative. Don't recreate the wheel.
Yeah.
There are I mean, you can mention all the other event sites, but they all have done that work. So try not to make it hard for
Yeah.
people.
Don't lose them once you got them. And then final thing on not losing people, don't make it like a 5-page form for people to fill out. Like if I have to fill out more than 5 fields, I'm already upset. I
Hmm.
actually registered for an event yesterday, and there was like I swear 20 fields. And
Hmm.
then at the bottom, I finally filled out the 20th, and it's like next page. I was like, next fucking page. What else do you want?
So how would you so okay, let's go just a little bit into that. Maybe it's a whole nother episode, but like how would you do that to make sure that they get registered with that? Like, would you send them name and email, and then we'll send you a follow-up to finish up the we'll send you a follow-up to finish up the registration, or
Yeah, it's a take the money and run situation, right?
yeah.
Like you want to first get that person's email, and if they're paying, get them to pay. And then you can go from there. And
Mhm.
if you're doing free events, you probably have a CRM, so you can probably be adding to that over time. Like
Mhm.
you got to kind of get that stuff trickled in, or
Mhm.
you can fill it out. Maybe if you're using a platform like Buzzit, then when people want to start networking, they'll fill in their personal details on the profiles,
Mhm.
right? And then
Mhm.
you can pull it from there and kind of
Right.
update it. But like if you just ask people 100 required questions, they
Mhm.
might just drop off. So you're better off having, would you rather have double the people but a little bit less information on them, like, right?
Right. You have their email, right? And that's
And
the
then
number one benefit to having an event is having their email at least. I mean,
yeah.
obviously you want people to show up, but let's get them to show up. Okay, how do you get people to show up?
Okay, 3 ways. So passive involvement, that's what like everybody's already doing.
Mhm.
Active involvement, that's what everybody should be doing. And then ease of access. And this is like you're a dinosaur if you don't at least have ease of access.
Don't
So
be a dinosaur.
yeah. So for passive involvement, you could probably, from
Yeah,
people you've worked with, Marissa, you could probably say
right.
what the most common is, right?
Yeah. So the most common in people that I've worked with is social media posts. And now sometimes people have a CRM and email marketing, so they do send email updates, but they're sending, oh, look, we have an event post. Oh, look, here's a speaker post, but not really extensive posts. It's just like, come to our event, not
Right.
giving a lot of details, just like announcing it. And then we're also building backwards from, okay, the event registration closes a week before or 2 days before, and we're building out a plan to like schedule posts and send out them regularly. When we're talking about like maybe a LinkedIn event that you're doing regularly, you're posting on there that you have an event and add to calendar. That's the most simple, passive involvement
Yeah, and if
way to
people
get
do that add to calendar thing, that can really increase their show up rates. We got to
Mhm.
remember not everybody uses Google Calendar, but
Why not?
I
Okay.
don't know. I meet them all the time now. So next thing, active involvement. And this is like getting people doing something. So not just reading your emails, not just reading your posts. So getting them somewhat like invested in an outcome, somewhat
Mhm.
involved in a conversation with somebody else that's going or with a speaker,
Mhm.
creating some kind of intrigue, like what's going to happen,
Right.
or create like some kind of open loop. Right.
Right.
And so we can go into some of those. I think it's best to go by event. One of my favorites for speaker events, especially when you have a high level speaker that people want, like if that's an expert that people like would pay for time with, if you can if you're planning to take questions for them, then start taking those questions in advance and get people to
Mhm.
upvote them, so you start a little bit of a competition between the audience members of whose question is going to get answered.
Right. Yeah, and that is definitely in the event you're using an event site like Buzzit, because those are built-in features. But even if you're not using that, you're doing like a LinkedIn or a social media event, still ask for those questions because people want to feel like they're involved in this event, and gather them, ask them. I think a lot of people avoid that, and this is not and maybe this is a secret, but I wanna say, like, you can ask that to get people excited, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use those questions. So
Right. Yeah.
there's like,
Oh,
"Okay, look, we're asking questions, like, come to this event, be involved," but, like, you don't have to build those into your
yeah.
content.
And yeah, that way you start the conversation among the people that are interested in the speaker as well, right?
Mhm.
So you're creating all this buzz. I might use
Right.
that word before the event.
Buzz it event.
So next, like example, so like we worked with a lot of startup competitions, and so what
Mhm.
a lot of them will use is like we've just published the finalists, like so people will register in advance, but they aren't
Mhm.
going to know who's going to be pitching, who the competitors are, right? And so
Right.
one of the early activation emails for the attendees is we've just published the finalists. Check out their pitch videos now. And so
Right.
people can get that email, click through to the site, and click a button to watch pitch videos from all the people.
Yeah,
And so it's
amazing. I
yeah,
mean, that's even if I can't attend the event, I know that something is happening. It's not just this dinosaur event that I'm gonna watch that has no intrigue.
yeah,
Um, but I mean, I think it's also like you're building excitement, buzz, and excitement for an event, and you know, if I'm involved, then I'm gonna show up. I,
there
I
you go.
want I want to see that pitch video that
Yeah.
I saw, and I want them to win. You know.
Exactly. Yeah. Another thing people will do with events like that is have people vote in advance. Sometimes they'll do people's choice awards during events. Sometimes they'll do them to determine the finalists though, as well. So they actually do
Mhm.
those in advance. And having those, if you're running a free event, especially, can be a great way to get people to share the event, to get
Mhm.
more people to register. So they're voting for their friends, right? Popularity contests, essentially.
Right. Right.
Good way to promote sharing. Um, Networking events, really great early call to action is saying like something like 100 people have already created profiles. Click here to browse now, right?
Nice.
To see who you might be able to connect with at the event. But what you don't do there is say, go build your profile now, because that sounds like
Work.
that's the work. And you
Don't
don't want to tell people, go do work. People don't click things that say, go do work.
Yeah, you're
But
right.
if you say create that intrigue and say you check out these other people's profiles now, then as soon as people see that, then they've got their own FOMO and they want to be like,
Mhm.
okay, I want to be on this list. And so like
Right.
that desire comes from within, right?
Yeah, and, another example is a panel event, which I think is my favorite ones. I'm doing a lot of virtual events. They're always asking, like, "Do you have questions for the panel? This is the topic we're gonna talk about." And a lot of times it's very, recency bias type of content. So people are talking about current events or current things that are happening, and they want to make sure that their question gets answered on the panel, whether it's by the MC or it's one of the panelists. And I think that's a really good way to get people involved pre-event,
Right.
but also during.
And then maybe if the panelists are being announced, you can say like, click here to see the panelist profiles as well, like learn
Hmm.
who's going to be there, right?
Hmm. Yeah. And then any event, get freebies from our speakers or sponsors. Another one's like browse offers from our sponsors, which I think you have to do, especially if you're having sponsors. But I think this allows you can kind of combine both of them. Maybe the sponsor is sponsoring like the a panel event, right? So you can kind of mesh the two. Like if you attend this panel or you ask a question, you'll be entered into a draw, whatever. You
Right.
can kind of mix all of these different ways of getting people engaged and involved in your event.
Right. And then final obvious but super hot tip for is make it really easy to access that event. So first thing, obviously, if you're using Eventbrite or using Buzzit, you're going to have 2-day, 2-hour, and 10-minute reminders automatically
Mhm.
from the registrations. That makes it easy. And those will have on them add to calendar buttons, so people can add that to their calendar and get more notifications.
Mhm.
But overall, make sure that it is a one-click access for when people do want to join. Because if you make them
Mhm.
jump through hoops, some people just won't make it through those hoops.
Yeah.
Final item, and why at Buzzit we've worked so hard on this is have it be a mobile friendly experience. Because if
Mhm.
you've done all this work to get people on, but then they happen to not be at their laptop, if you're on Zoom, they can't join.
Yeah.
Or they won't, because the experience is horrible. Who's attended an online event on their phone? Nobody in the whole audience, just in the whole world, just raised their hand because it sucks.
Yeah, or
Uh,
or you can't turn off your camera, you don't know how to do it because and then now you've got that view of like, under your chin and you're like, "Nope, I'm not gonna do
yeah,
it," or "I don't have my headphones
yeah,
connecting." Like,
yeah,
there's just gotta be a way to make it but I think this is super important, from if you're a planner, you're listening to this and you're working with someone who's helping you plan the event. Let's say you've already picked your platform where your registrations. Now, step outside your planner role and your host role and actually try to attend the event
yeah,
and write down how easy it is. One, either how easy is it or if it's not an easy platform,
yeah,
you know, plan those communications ahead of time because I've seen where they were waiting until the day of to, like, communicate, like, how to get into the event, and it was because they chose a platform that just didn't work the way they wanted. It wasn't easy.
yeah.
Um, and they didn't prepare enough, and now they were dealing with customer service issues while their event started
Whoa,
because they
that
didn't
sounds stressful.
communicate about how to get into the event or how
Yeah,
maybe plan it in where you have like 15 minutes of like networking ahead of time so that way that people are going to be there not trying to get into the event and the speaker starting right at the 10-second mark, right?
right.
Because they may not be there. So I always that's my view when I'm planning an event. Okay, how easy is it? And sometimes when I come into a project, they've already chosen that
Yeah,
platform, and it's really hard to be like, no, we have to step back and say, how are we going to communicate this to
yeah,
people? So yeah, it's all those event software people
yeah.
outside of you, John. I know I've used Buzzit. I know
Even hey,
how easy it
even
is.
as an event software owner, I'm gonna say to all planners, do not choose the software first.
So we talked about the three things: passive involvement, active involvement, and ease of access. Make sure that you're all considering those when you're getting people to show up. And I think that's it for this
That
episode
is
on
it
how
for this
to
episode.
double your online attendance. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for
Thanks, Karen.
watching Resilient Events, where co-hosts Marissa and John provide overwhelmed entrepreneurs with a comprehensive strategy for using podcasts, live streams, and events to establish expertise in any industry. With real-life examples and events expertise, they'll help you finish planning and start doing. Only on the 100 TV network. Visit RizPod.live for show extras and freebies.